Welcome back to West Texas View.
Welcome back to the West Texas View. Tom Hardy is our guest today, and he's just written a new book about West Texas, and this is a must-read. We'll tell you more about how to get a copy of this in just a little while, but we were talking about where a lot of these things that are in this book came from. It comes directly from his own memory of being so close to an extended family. And I wanted you to talk just a minute about the aunts and uncles and their relationships to you, because that was just like a second mother, and they could spank you or hug you or do anything just like they were your mother.
Exactly. Yes, that's it. As I said, we were several sets of us living in walking distance, and for example, I'll give an example of a story. My mom wanted to mop one day, and that time that was a big deal. You know, you had to sweep the house, and you mopped everything with a mop.
Mop the linoleum.
And yeah, mop the linoleum. So she would tell us, okay, I want you to go over to this cousin's house and spend the day over there, and you know, don't come back till dark, and behave. And if you don't, she'll take care of it. So it was, you know, it was our daycare. It was our extended family. And we felt very safe within that environment. And like I said, growing up with 12 cousins to grow up with, and it was almost like brothers and sisters, mothers and daddies. It was a great experience.
And you never came in and said, Mother, so-and-so said so-and-so. You
No.
took care of your own.
No, she would say, well, you need to take care of that. And one of the great things, you know, now, I hate to say nowadays, but nowadays, kids live a life that's almost totally structured. You know, their parents are taking them to soccer practice, to violin practice, to taekwondo, and you know, and then you got the video games and that sort of thing. So they never get the opportunity to get out and play and invent things on their own
and explore.
Just go lizard hunting and go find horny toads, and we did horny toad chariot races and stuff like that. I wish my kids had had the opportunity for that kind of environment when they were growing up. I think they would have been more well-rounded people. My son's an electrical engineer, and he knows everything there is to know about electrical engineering, but I don't think he could catch a horny toad if his life depended on it.
He'd probably be afraid to catch a
He probably
horny
would,
toad.
you know, so, or go lizard hunting or any of those things that we got to do. So I really think that we had a rich childhood by all of us being together and growing up together, and like I said, we were blissfully unaware that we were poor.
In fact, I want to read what another author wrote about this story. Okay. He said, Slow Moving Dreams, which is the name of this book, is the story of a particular kind of childhood, one almost certainly is disappearing now, if not already gone. It's the story of the power of long-held grudges and revenge, because this book has this overlying intrigue. It's the story of a group of people coming to terms with long repressed ambitions and disappointments, and it's a story of resolution and closure, past, present, and future. Along the way, it's also a singular, funny story, and that's that. I just laughed all the way through it, or I stopped and just remembered my own childhood, because mine was very much like yours, in that that we were shooed out of the house in the morning, and then we came back late in the afternoon. But also, this story has a really sinister overplot about, again, the revenge factor of something that happened in days when there was not a lot of justice. Kids were not considered real people till they were adults, and so people could abuse them, and people didn't really understand that. So this has got that intrigue in it too.
It does have that in it. One of the things that I wanted to kind of explore is the power of anger and grudges and hurt to carry over generations. And my father, the grudge that's in the book comes from the generation in front of me. My father, for example, was during the Depression, his father had to go around to different parts of the country to make a living. So he would leave the kids at what he called foster homes, but it was usually a farm where he couldn't afford to send any money, so they would use my father as labor. And he was abused pretty badly, and you know, sister was abused. And so we found out about that as we got older, and we were angry that our parents had been abused like this. And then in the story, a lot of that comes to light, and the characters in the story have to make the decision of, are we going to continue to carry that hurt, or are we going to let it go? And they found that it's very, very hard to let those angers go. And another example, it's a more horrible example, but my mother's people were Cherokee, and it's been almost 200 years since the Trail of Tears, and we're still mad about that, you know. So these wrongs that happen to the generation in front of you, the anger that the parents have, that the kids pick that up, you know, and you have it in your life. So somewhere down the line, you have to decide: am I going to let this go, or am I going to continue to have this hurt?
Am I going to let it eat me alive?
Yeah, and so that's kind of the story of these kids dealing with hurt and anger that came from their parents. Not so much that these kids were abused, but that their parents had been, and they were still angry about it.
And the main character, again, picks up from a lot of your experiences. The main character is Tom Carter, who is the CEO of a large medical center in Austin. And he is informed of the death of his cousin that he hadn't seen for a while. This cousin that he was so as close to as a brother when he was growing up. And so then he decides at the last minute to go to the funeral, and that's the setting. The whole setting is in Alpine and Fort Stockton and Balmorhea area. And it's just a wonderful, warm story with enough conflict in it that it gives you a lot of suspense as you're reading through it. But the other thing about it is only after the cousin's funeral that this dark family secret really began to unravel, and y'all came to grips with it. And so that's, you know, you're reading this whole book and you're just laughing and happy, but you know that there's something about to happen.
There's something hanging on their head.
The other thing I love about this book is it's very short. It's only about 175 pages long. And so it's a great read for one evening. I read it over 2 evenings, but just a few hours each evening. And so I want us to talk more in the next segment about where to get this book and so on, and how you came to get it published where you did, and so on. We've had several authors over the last few years that have talked about different ways to get books published. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation with Tom Hardy.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.